Hi there, Simon from simonwoods.com here. Today, Semillon. Now, Semillon's a bit of a weird grape variety in that it can make some of the world's most fabulous wines, Sauternes made mostly from Semillon, and other white Bordeaux. We've got a white Bordeaux coming up, but it's not 100% Semillon. Why? Well, because Semillon by itself, if you don't give it a chance to shine, can just come across as being a bit sort of either dull and heavy, or just, if you pick it a bit earlier, it's almost like too shrieking and battery acid-like for its own good. So the idea is they blend a bit of the Sauvignon that's got, when it's Sauvignon goes straight out of the trap going, you know, you're sort of a yapping little dog, and then Semillon's a bit more, I'm a big Doberman type of grape variety. Anyway, first one I've got, Fern Grove. Fern Grove in Western Australia, up and coming winery. I think it's been going about, maybe 10 years now. And it's down in what they call the Lower Great Southern, but I know they source fruits from different parts of the state. So this one is the one which is labelled Sauvignon Semillon, so more Sauvignon than Semillon. Certainly smells crisp and grassy and has got that herby edge, but underneath it's not really all shrieky Sauvignon. There's something a bit more subtle to this as well. Yeah, it's like a squeeze of lemon on some fish straight from the barbecue. But then the Semillon adds gravitas, it adds a bit of pungent weight behind. And the idea of this is not for it to be a wine that will keep for ages, but what happens over the course of a year or so, the Sauvignon starts off in charge, and then the Semillon's content to sort of plod along in the background, but then with a bit more time, the Sauvignon fades, maybe loses a few of its high notes, and the Semillon comes through. So, another one from Fern Grove, their 2009 Semillon Sauvignon, this time under the Leaping Lizard label. Bit of alliteration there, Leaping Lizard label. It's a bit cheaper as well, it's about £1 cheaper, but more Semillon in here. Well, it doesn't jump out of the glass quite as much as the one that had more Sauvignon here. This feels maybe weightier. There's a bit of honey nut, honeycomb, that type of character. Some of that slightly citrus and herb edge of Sauvignon in the background, certainly. Yeah, it's a richer wine. I don't know whether it's a better wine. I almost miss a bit of that Sauvignon edge just to give it a few of those higher grace notes. So, good but not great. I'm getting a bit of this tropical fruit edge coming through too, which is, it's okay. It's not great. I prefer the one that's got more Sauvignon in. Now this one here, Chateau de Sour in Bordeaux, 50 Sauvignon, 50 Semillon, 50-50 blend. And I think it's got a little bit of oak, probably on the Semillon bit, and the Sauvignon probably no oak there, but it shouldn't be a big oaky wine. Some white Bordeaux can have quite a whack of smoky oak in there, and it can work really well, providing the fruit is up to it in the first place, as is the same with all oaked wines. Anyway, let's get our noses into this one, or at least my nose. Now, this has got what I call a classic white Bordeaux smell. I don't remember the last time I had tinned pears, but the flavour of tinned pear juice, not slightly sugary syrup edge, with that crunchy pear edge to it as well. I get that quite strongly here. Yeah, that's what it's got there. Whereas the two Australian ones with the Sauvignon in, they have got the Sauvignon is really quite sharp. Here the Sauvignon's a bit more mellow, a bit more, the herb character's coming through. And it's things like fennel, it's more citrus, maybe riper apple flavours. It's not quite as brash maybe as the Sauvignon that you're getting from the Western Australian duo. Yeah, I like that. Also feels like it's got a bit of poke to it. The Semillon is really adding some power to it. So whereas I wouldn't be all that confident in keeping the other two, this one feels, I know it's 6 months older already, feels like it's got another year or so at least in bottle. Talking about ageability and Semillon, the last two wines I've got are from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales in Australia, and they're two of Australia's greatest Semillons. And the idea of a Hunter Valley Semillon is a weird style because people think of high alcohol when they think of Australian wines. Now this one here comes in at, let's have a look, is this 11%? 11.5%. And the one that follows is just 10%. They managed to achieve that by picking really quite early. I mean, sometimes they'll be picking in January and February. Certainly, but by the middle of February, they should have all their Semillon in. And it's a style of wine that, as I was saying before, so Semillon when it's young really doesn't shine, and it takes time in bottle to show it its true colours. But Hunter Semillon just goes on and on and on. You get bottles that are like 15, 20 years old. And it's an unoaked style, but when you taste them when they're mature, it's got this lovely buttery, toasty edge, and you'd swear it had been through the whole barrel process. This is 5 years old now. Let's give it a sniff. And it's got, for me, it's a classic Hunter Semillon. It's got this green gage, lemon, lime, a bit of toast, a bit of honey, but those sort of characters really haven't started to come through very strongly. If I leave this bottle open for another few hours, I think they'll start to emerge. Let's have a taste. Oh, it's like your mouth is being in a rainforest shower. There's richness there, but this is bracing acidity. You feel like you want to do a shampoo advert. Well, last time I did a shampoo advert, oh, my hair fell out. So I won't be doing any more of those for a while. But it's persistent. It's got this, this green gage, citrus edge, and there's some of these lime custardy edges that are coming through as well. And as I say, they're going to come through stronger with time. It hasn't started really to develop that toasty edge. It feels desperately young. I mean, I think they say on the back of the bottle, try it when it's 10, 15 years old. I'd almost like to say 25, 30-year-old wine. It's going to be no problem for that. Lovely. Okay, the final one. From Tyrrell's. So that was Mount Pleasant Lovedale, single vineyard. This is Tyrrell's VAT 1 Hunter Semillon, and this is 2002. Festooned with gold medals. Let's see whether they deserve it. So you're getting a bit more richness, and you're getting a bit more weight to it now, even though it's just 10% alcohol. There's a bit of sulfur dioxide coming up, so you sort of go a bit when you smell it. But beyond that, there's this wealth of citrus, starting to get some of that honey. Not really the toast yet. I imagine that's going to come through. I will report back on these bottles because it's lunchtime here now. I'm going to try them with dinner and see what sort of 5 or 6 hours having been open will do to them. Oh, you're tasting a real youngster there. It's 8 years old and it's still desperately young. But what you're getting on the finish, you're starting to get some of that creamy weight coming through, and you'd think it had been through malolactic, you'd think it had had a bit of time in an oak barrel. It's got that crisp, bracing citrus edge, but these honeyed, toasty edges just starting to come through, and I think they're going to come through even stronger with time. So I'll be looking forward to those this evening. See you soon.